Hello everyone, and welcome back to the next installment of our 9.1 raid guides. This is Crzypck from Complexity Limit, and today we're going to show you how to kill the Eye of the Jailer in the Sanctum of Domination on Heroic. The Eye of the Jailer is a 3-phase encounter. You'll alternate between phases 1 and 2 until you've completed phase 2 twice, then you'll enter phase 3. Let's start with the gimmick for this fight. The encounter room is a large crescent shape. On the two tips of the crescent there are harpoon piles. Clicking the pile will yeet you across the open area to the other side's harpoon pile. This is a pretty neat little gimmick and you'll actually be utilizing it for some of the mechanics. Okay, on to phase 1. Since the boss is a giant floating eyeball, he can't melee your attacks. Instead, he'll basically chain cast Piercing Lens, which smacks your tank for a decent chunk of physical damage. Aside from that, he'll also periodically cast Deathlink, shooting a large bolt at the current tank. This will explode and deal splash damage, so you'll want to make sure you aren't standing on the active tank. He'll also put down some swirlies on the ground called Fractured Soul. If you get hit by the swirlies explosion, it'll create 3 images of you. They won't be laughing at you for getting hit, but honestly they probably should be. Instead of laughing, they'll deal some ticking damage and reduce your movement speed, damage, and healing. Running over an image despawns it, so you'll have to run over all 3 of them as quickly as you can. Or, just don't get hit by the obvious swirlies on the ground. The boss's last main ability in phase 1 is the Annihilating Glare. This is a giant laser beam that the boss will shoot, then he'll rotate and do a 360 with the laser beam. Because of the crescent shape of the platform, the raid will need to run to the very tip of whatever side the crescent beam is rotating towards, then click the harpoon pile to jump over to the opposite side. Throughout phase 1 there's also some adds you'll need to deal with. The first ones are simple. They're smaller floating eyes that'll just shoot relatively weak eye bolts at a random player throughout the phase. You don't really interact with them past that. The more important adds are the Stygian Abductors. One of these bad boys will spawn in the sky and shoot dragging chains at a random player, hitting that person and anyone within a 6-yard circle around them. This will deal a mild amount of damage split between everyone hit, and then pull everybody hit towards the ad and potentially off the edge. The less people that soak, the stronger the pool is. You'll want 5 or 6 people soaking, and the targeted player to move away from the edge of the room. To make it easier, you can have a stack spot near the middle of the room for the targeted player to run to, with all the soakers meeting the player there. You'll be dealing with all of these mechanics until the boss reaches 66% health, at which time you'll enter phase 2. Here, the boss will float away and throw 2 Deathseeker Eye adds at the platform. Their landing spot is indicated by large swirlies and these will need to be tanked. The boss will also cast Titanic Death Gaze on a timer throughout the phase, dealing a large chunk of raid-wide damage. In addition to this, he'll cast Desolation Beam, which shoots a beam at a random player and then chains to anybody nearby, with the damage increasing after each jump. Lastly, the boss continues casting Fractured Soul in this phase, so just like before, don't get hit or the images will probably laugh at you. More important than the boss in phase 2 are the Deathseeker Eye adds. They'll need to be tanked more than 30 yards apart or they'll do massive AoE ticking damage called Suffering that'll very quickly wipe the raid. They'll regularly cast Piercing Lens as their tank smack, which is just the same thing the big boss does. Slothful Corruption is a debuff applied to several random players, dealing damage and reducing casting speed, range attack speed, and movement speed by 40% for 21 seconds. This is dispellable, so you should do that unless you're just really trying to ruin someone's parse. The last major ability from the adds is Spreading Misery. This is a debuff applied to a few random players, dealing mild ticking damage for 5 seconds. When it expires, it'll leave a puddle of goo on the ground that lasts for 10 minutes, functionally the rest of the encounter. Oh, and one last thing on the adds, you'll need to kill them within 8 seconds of each other, or the first one you killed will start chain casting that Suffering AoE ability and wipe the raid. Once you've killed both eye adds, the boss re-engages. You'll repeat phase 1 now until the boss reaches 33% health. Then, another phase 2 with Deathseeker Eyes, and when they die, you'll enter phase 3. You should Bloodlust immediately upon entering phase 3. The boss will start the phase by casting Immediate Extermination, increasing his attack rate by 50%. Additionally, the boss will pulse every 10 seconds for the remainder of the fight, dealing mild shadow damage and reducing the raid's healing by 10% per stack. On top of this, all phase 1 abilities continue occurring, so things will ramp up and get intense pretty quickly. Nuke down the boss before your healers stop being able to heal the raid, close this giant eyeball up, and collect your loot. If you enjoyed this guide, remember to like it and make sure you're subscribed to the channel to catch all of our previews, guides, kill videos, and more. From the team here at Complexity Limit, have a great day and we'll see you next time.